I was asked what can be done about avoidant personality disorder and what can be done to make it better. And basically, how can you become a happy person and get over it. I've done a lot of therapy, and I'm actually a pretty highly functioning avoidant in videos, for example. But what I've been told, and I'm sorry this is not that optimistic, is that avoidant personality disorder can't be cured. It can only be managed, which makes sense, because supposedly you develop your personality and then it gets sort of stuck in one position and you can't really change it. That's what they all say. All the experts who've done research. So as far as managing avoidant personality disorder, just to let you know what I've done to sort of make things better is, first of all, was finding out about it. Knowing that I wasn't the only one, and knowing that these things I did, it wasn't just me being completely bizarre and weird. There are other people out there that have the same issues and react the same way. And it might not be that common, but it's not a unique and negative type lifestyle. That helped. It also helped a lot finding out the root cause of avoidancy, that avoidant people are made, and they're not born that way. That it's possible people can have sort of a genetic predisposition for it, but there needs to be multiple triggering events, that it doesn't just come out of it. It's a reaction to how you treat it. And so it's not your fault. It's not necessarily anybody else's fault either, but not me. But it's not totally 100% you. You didn't do this to yourself. You weren't born as a defective or anything like that. Things happen, and this is how you reacted, and this is a survival technique that you developed, and there it is. Maybe not the funnest and prettiest way of living, but you're living. So, sort of like evolutionary survival of the species. You did what you needed to do to survive whatever traumatic event, as small as it might seem to other people, happened to you. It's not small to you. And so you forced to become weak. That helped me to sort of give myself a break. And that's the next thing I really advise people to try to do, is to take the blame off themselves and realize what you have control over and what you don't. And if you are avoidant, you can't be the life of the party. You might be able to fake it for a very short amount of time, but you can't. You can't. It's impossible. You can't. You might want it, and people might expect or demand it of you, but you can't do it. So, you can anticipate that. You can, yes, avoidance is maybe not the best way of doing it, but you can avoid situations where you're going to be forced to do it. Don't volunteer to sing the national anthem. If somebody tells you to do it, you can turn them down, and that sort of thing. And if somebody is pushing you beyond what you're capable of, and you can't do it, then don't beat yourself up for not fulfilling their wishes. try to give yourself credit for realizing that you're not capable of doing what they ask for, and that you would have failed, and that you save everybody the failure of it, and they'll find somebody who can do it. That's a good thing, you know. So realizing what your limits are, you know, not thinking that they're permanent limits, but for now, this is what I can and can't do, and staying within those boundaries and not beating yourself up for doing it is, I think that's a very good thing that you can do. Sort of take the pressure off yourself, sort of give yourself a break. You know, you are this way. You wouldn't expect somebody in a wheelchair to run a marathon. You wouldn't expect that they would, you know, expect themselves to run a marathon either. Well, you know, you have these limitations, and there we go. You got to stay within what you can do. And that's all there is to it. As far as the maladaptive coping techniques, including suicidal ideation, I personally don't think, as long as you monitor them, that you need to change them. As long as they're working for you, as long as you're getting something positive out of them, they're not taking over your life, they're not, you know, and the big problem with these things that you do, especially with suicidal ideation, is that it can, you know, jump you into a depression if you weren't depressed before. Got to watch out for that. If that's happening, get therapy for it. And I know that sounds really smug. And I can tell you, as a person that's been through a lot of therapy, that sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. And it's so stressful to go to therapy that, you know, depending on what type of therapy it is, it can hold you back or even make you regress rather than progress. So it's something to definitely be sort of proactive in realizing whether it's working for you or not. One thing that I have a theory about, I haven't actually done it, sort of trying to build up the courage to do it actually. I think that a life coach might be better than a traditional therapist. You know, somebody who is going to be supportive of you and listen to where you've been and help you map out a plan for getting somewhere in the future and encourage you, but without being sort of a drill sergeant about it, but to just sort of be supportive of you making changes and understanding if you try something and it's just too much for you and you have to sort of back off. I think that would be great. Like I said, I'm sort of trying to convince myself to try that. And that's just my opinion, and I've seen absolutely nothing anywhere about anybody that's tried that. It just, again, it depends on the relationship a lot. So I think that might be something that might be helpful, depending on where people are. So I'm sorry that this is probably not that helpful. Because I'm not giving you any clear directions, and I'm just like, ooh, if you try this, you try this. Be positive. Type of thing. You know, strangle somebody if they came up and told me. And it took me years and years. I mean, as far as accepting suicidal ideation and not be freaked out by it and call the most positive aspects of it, learning how to do that. I mean, that took decades for me to learn how to do that. So I'm not saying just suddenly change. But if you're looking for a direction on what you could try to work on, these are things that have worked. And again, I'm sorry I'm not giving you sort of step-by-step directions. Do this, do this, do this. Not, you know, I'm an individual person, and what worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it would work for you, and my situation is probably very different from a lot of people with avoidant personality disorder. So I don't think that even if I could come up with a step by step, I don't think it would work. So I hope I'm just frustrated you have that. That maybe you could think about what I've said might help you. I mean, if for nothing else, then you can see that if that's what you're doing and it's slowly coming together for you, well, it slowly came together for me, and I'm definitely better off now than I was. So, anytime in the past, um, I can definitely get points in my life more worse off than I used to. But I have been for what I'm doing now, so I'm sort of getting a little garbled. So I think I'm used to it.